Thank you for joining us today. We are going to take a deep dive into the American Recovery Plan. That's the recently enacted third stimulus. This is a long video. Stay tuned with us through the whole thing. I've got lots to go through. It definitely makes sense for you to listen. Thanks for joining. Well, third time around's a charm, right? This is another $1.9 trillion stimulus that was just passed. It went by the House, the Senate, and the President. The American Recovery Plan Act of 2021, otherwise now being called the ARP, or third round stimulus. It is a doozy. There is a lot there. They passed it during the middle of tax season just to make things a little bit more challenging, more fun for all of us as taxpayers here. Adds a lot of complexity, a lot of unknowns, but also gives a lot of dollars out to the economy. Stay tuned for the whole video. We're going to be going through various different sections and how it may apply to you, going into the details on each one of them. And at the end, I'm going to spend some time talking about what now. I think a lot of us are asking, we all acknowledge this is the third round. There is going to be implications on long-term tax planning. There's very few people that doubt that this is going to have long-term impacts on tax rates. And what does that mean? So there's the first part of the video, we're going to be talking about what are the details within this, how does that mean to you? And then the second stage is going to be what do you need to do right now, right? So I am going to dive right in here and start going through. The first item that most people are feeling and seeing is the rebate or the stimulus. It's the individual tax rebate is what it's called. This is the $1,400. Some of you may have even seen it come into your checking account already. That's how fast they're working on coming out with these. It is $1,400 per individual on the tax return that you filed. Note I said the tax return. We're going to get to what it is. But it's going to be sent to you the same mechanism that you got the first and the second stimulus. So if you had a checking account in place, that's where it's likely going to go. If you didn't, if it came in the mail, expect it coming in the mail. So just be aware it's probably going to come the same method that you had the first and second one. It's also going to follow, generally speaking, a pretty similar trend as the first and second one. So if you got the full stimulus, the first and second one, you're likely going to get the full third one. If it was reduced, you're likely going to get a reduction, or if none at all. And because actually they made tighter phase outs for this third round of stimulus. So let's jump into that. What are those? Throughout this video, not just this rebate, but there are other credits as well. They grabbed onto the $75,000 for an individual or $150 for a married filing jointly. Those are the phase outs. Those are where you're going to start seeing things. So those are the key numbers you need to know. If you're an individual, it's $75,000. If you're head of household, it's $115,000. Or if you're married filing jointly, it's $150,000. So keep those numbers in mind. Anything above those numbers and things start happening badly for you. They start phasing out. So whereas the first and second stimulus phased out between $150,000 to $200,000, this stimulus, this one here, is going to phase out between $150,000 and $160,000, or $75,000 and $85,000 for the singles. That's a fast phase out. So basically what that means is if you made more than $80,000 as an individual or $160,000 for a married filing jointly, you phase out of this third stimulus. If you made less than the $150,000, you're good. You're going to likely get it. It's going to be coming here shortly. If you didn't get it, or if you did make more this year, there's some strategies, because what they're going to use to file this third stimulus is your 2019 tax return, unless you filed the 2020. If you filed the 2020, they're going to use that. Well, what that means is if your 2019 is lower and you have a better chance of getting a full stimulus than you do the 2020, you may want to hold off on that 2020 return. Or if your 2020 is lower and maybe you were phased out in 2019, you're going to want to jump on and get that tax return filed sooner than later to get those. So the numbers do matter for you if you're right around that edge there. Who does it apply to now has expanded from the first two. So now it's the filers. So if you're married filing jointly, it's you and your spouse. and then any one of your dependents. And now here's the fun part about this additional one is if you had dependents between age 17 to 26, and the first and second stimulus, those are not allowed. This one they are. So they expanded the scope there on that, which is great news for those receiving that stimulus. And it also added on the older dependent care as well. And so it is expanded recipients for this round of stimulus dollars. This is a large inflow of cash coming into the market, so that does play on to a lot of things going forward. Definitely going to be interesting to see what this all does and where this all plays out. So you should be receiving these stimulus dollars here in the next week or two would be my guess. If longer, let us know. We can help you maybe track it down. There are spots on the IRS website that you can go to track where that's at. You can also go to that website to put in income in verification items as well if you need to. So, well, that's what we're going to talk about for the recovery rebate or this first stimulus. Now we're going to move on to unemployment. I do want to take a moment. I am kind of following here. We did pull together a summary of this. It's going to be available in the link below on our website for you to download and read through it if you want. There are a lot of other guidance out there as well, but we wanted to pull it together here for you as well. So definitely if you want to take a moment to download that, I would suggest it and read through. I am following pretty closely with what's on that information. So, but the unemployment is the next impact of unemployment, if you will, is one of the next curveballs that they threw in this stimulus package. Most of the other items actually were planned. We had known they were coming. We had been thinking about them or working through. But this unemployment threw all of us tax preparers for a loop because it does help many individuals that did receive the unemployment, but what it's doing is it's causing lots of confusion for most individual tax filers. Because what it did is it said the first $10,200 of unemployment that you received, if you received unemployment, during 2020 is not taxable if you made less than $75,000 single, $150,000 jointly. And so that means if you've already filed your tax return, you're going to have to think about what do you do with it. It also has implications of going forward of if you haven't filed your returns. So again, I'm going to repeat, if you had unemployment and you made less than $75,000 single, $150,000 joint, then you can subtract off $10,200 of your social or of unemployment, and that's actually, you can double that if both you and your spouse had unemployment. You could subtract each up to $10,200. And then how you're going to do it mechanically, if you have not filed your tax return already, is on Schedule 1, Box 7. That's where you would put the unemployment. That's where you'd still put that in there. They still want you to put that in there. Now they've come out with guidance and said now in Box 8 to come through and do a negative amount for what's not taxable. So if you're doing your own return, that's how you're going to do it. If we're working with it, we'll take care of it for you. If you have already filed, we're going to have to go back and decide what we're going to do. The IRS has said don't amend your returns. They have come out with issue. They're trying to figure out how they're going to handle those that have already been filed. We don't know what they're doing. They have not said what they're doing. So hold tight if you've already filed your tax return. But if you haven't, it's something that you can now adjust and take care of going forward. So that does have a nice play for taxable nature if you did get unemployment this last year. The next component of the ARP that we're going to talk about is the child tax credit. Now this is not a new tax credit. It's been around for a while. Before it was $2,000 per eligible child that was on your tax return, but only $1,400 of that was refundable. So it depended on your income. You may not see all of it. For most people, it was that $2,000. It is expanding to $3,000 per eligible child, and all of that is refundable. So the potential is now $3,000 per qualifying child that's on your tax return, or qualifying dependent that's on your tax return. Now, in order, I say qualifying, note that I'm saying that they've also expanded who's qualifying. So before it was any dependent age 17 or lower. They've now, or under 17. They've now expanded it to increase to anyone that's including 17-year-olds. So basically anyone that's under 18 now and is a dependent on your tax return is going to qualify for this $3,000 tax credit. And what's so new and earth-shattering and changing just fundamentally what they're doing on this is that they're starting to advance this tax credit during the year. The only time we've seen something else like this was the premium tax credit. That's for the health insurance, where they advance it against your health insurance costs. Has unbelievable ramifications for a lot of employee or individuals. It makes it affordable, but wreaks havoc for most of you. You've seen that where it's come through potentially and just unknown impacts on your ending tax return. It may be similar for this one, but what they're doing is they're talking about, and they've instructed starting July 1st, anyone that they calculate is going to be eligible for this is going to start receiving advanced payments on this. And the advanced payments are directed to be half of the credit, so $1,500. So they're talking about advancing you out $1,500 per qualifying child from July 1st and through December 31st. Now it's interesting, the House bill said monthly. The Senate version changed the word monthly and made it to periodic, equal periodic. So I don't know what that means. That may mean monthly. It may mean quarterly. I'm not quite sure. We're still yet to see. But they've been directed to start in July 1st of 2021 to issue advance payments on this tax credit. So there's a couple things that it's going to do here. Is it's going to definitely incentivize people to get their tax returns filed. That was one of the goals through this process. The other one is it's going to make sure that you're going to want to have on file with the IRS your savings or your checking account, so they can make the direct deposits right into your account. That will be something that's going to be important. Also, who you claim as a dependent is going to become very important. And note, they're using your 2020 tax return to determine this. Ultimately, it's 2021, but they're starting with your 2020. And so for those of you that maybe changed dependents because of a divorce or because of changed custody or changed where the children live, this is going to impact you, right? And this is important. You should be talking with your tax preparer on what's the right way and who has the right to claim the dependent. It has major impacts for you, but it's something that you're going to have to think through and you're going to have to work through because it does have real dollars that are going to be advanced you during the year. And here's the kicker, it's an advance. So ultimately there's going to be a true up when you go to file your 2020 tax return. Now, they've made that true up a little bit less harsh than some of the other ones that have been out there. So it is limiting on how much would have to be given back if it's wrong. But just know that all you're doing is you're giving an advance on your end tax refund from 2021 that you're seeing. And so if you historically have qualified for more of a credit and a refund at the end of the year, you're going to be getting that refund during the year. So keep that in mind. So if you, at the end, all things being equal, there's a chance that you might owe come next year because you've been advanced some of those dollars during the year. So just be aware of that. Be cautious. Talk with your tax advisor on it. They should be able to outline some of these things in the planning stages with you while you're doing your tax return. Okay, moving along, continuing to progress through here. We'll probably put little cues in the video to kind of tell you where at each section these are, so you could kind of skip through if these don't apply to you or are given part of it. But the next one I'm going to talk through is earned income tax credit. So they've expanded that as well. That is going to be expanded. Who's really seeing the expansion of this is individuals without children that are in low income. And so this earned income credit, the way to think of it is that they want to incentivize you to work but not work too high. And so it's meant for low income individuals, but they also want to give it to those individuals that are working. So it's based on earned income. Well, what changed there was if people had been counting on a similar steady income and all of a sudden they went on unemployment, unemployment is not earned. In fact, it's unearned. That's the whole point of unemployment. But they changed the wording on that and made it so that for purposes of this calculation, you can either include the unemployment as part of it, you can look at your 2019 as a strategy to what you're counting for your earned income, and it also increased who's eligible for this and the amount that you're eligible for it. I'm not going to go into the details here on this video. They're in our summary. They're available out there, but just know that if you do qualify for the earned income tax credit, you're going to want to make some decisions on what income you're including is treated as earned and when and how and where. The next credit that we're going to cover here is the dependent care assistance. Again, this is not a new credit. This is one that's been there before. So before and historically for those that are looking at this, it's related to paying daycare and dependent care during the year. In 2020 and before, it was $3,000 per child up to 2 children that you could qualify for this for allowable dollars, so $3,000 in daycare expenses. They've expanded that up now and made it to $8,000 and $16,000, which is significantly increasing that. And they've also made the credit now fully refundable as well. So if you do have children in daycare or that are being watched, you have provider care, definitely going to want to look at this. What you're going to see here, I don't know if you've noticed, is a trend that a lot of these are very pivotal on the number of dependents you have in favoring those that have dependents or children or kids. And so that you are going to see that trend inside of here, that those that really benefited from this stimulus are those that have families. So, or the larger dependencies that are there, the more the stimulus. So it's the incentive, the immediate stimulus or the economic impact payment, the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, the dependent care tax credit. It's all largely geared at families with dependents. So you're going to feel that through here, and it definitely was favoring those with families. And to continue on in that trend, some of the smaller ones inside of this are the exclusion of forgiven student loans that's there. That's not a huge dollar amount, not been focused on too much. It's paving the path for what I think may be coming down the road, and we're going to save that for a whole nother video. But again, it's favoring those with the dependents, and that's where you're seeing it. The next one that we're going to talk about is the employer tax relief, so the paid sick and family leave credit. These are ones that were there that were added as part of the second stimulus. They've expanded those to extend into 2021. One little nuance there now is it's not required in 2021, but it is optional, and we are seeing many employers that did it before are choosing to do it again this year. And so again, you're seeing an expansion of all the credits that are available for taking care of kids, taking care of family when they're homesick. Now I'm going to focus actually on 2 items within this plan that did not relate to dependents, which you're going to note there's limited number of them here. One was the premium tax credit. This is not getting as much public information out there or publicity, but actually does have large impacts that are out there. And that if you had to pay back your tax credit, think of this as Obamacare, this is the credit that came against your health insurance if you're on the exchange. If your income was too high, you'd potentially have to give that back. They eliminated that need for 2021, or 2020, I mean, not 2021, 2020. And so that has huge potential if you were in that position. Again, there's not going to be many people that are in that position that needed this. But I think you're going to find that there are more than we think, because for many, 2020 may end up being better than they were expecting it to be. And then the last one I'm going to talk about here is the employer retention credit. We've had previous videos on that. You're going to see the next week's video, a precursor to that one, is going to go in deep dive into the available expansion of this tax credit. I think this is probably one of the biggest tax credits that's out there for employers. I don't think people are spending enough time looking at it. You need to look at it. Listen to the video next week. I'm going to give a little shameless plug for that for next week. Be watching for it. Be looking for that, because it has big dollar impacts for you if you have employees. And they expanded it significantly in 2021. So while it only took up one little section of this whole presentation, probably has very significant dollar impact for many businesses that are out there. Well, I've kind of come now to the end of my summary here. I only hit the tip of the iceberg, actually. There is a lot more that is in this. Again, this is just an immense size package. It's quite baffling, honestly, on how large this is. And that's going to transition me to the next part of this video here. And perhaps the more important part is, what do we do now, right? So here we're getting all these tax credits. That's good. That's helping in this emergency, this need. But I have a good feeling that when I'm talking to most of the clients that I'm working with, that we're thinking through, I know I feel this, many of my clients are feeling this, is the money's nice, but there is going to be a cost for this. This is the 3rd stimulus package that's out there. And actually, quite frankly, it's really the 4th, because there was a pre-one beforehand, so call it phase 0. So there was 4 stimulus packages that went out in the last year and a half that has it's mind-boggling, the dollars that are out there and what this is going to do to the flow of cash flow, for the inflation, for the availability of funds, the impact it's going to have on the market. But specifically what I'm going to talk about now is the impact on taxes. I know I have a general feeling that taxes are going to be going up for almost everybody that we're talking with. There are going to be a few select few that it's not going to. I mean, the targeted audience of this, which is by quantity a large part of America, which is the families with dependents, you're probably going to feel a decrease in taxes over the next couple of years because this is a very targeted towards those families. But if you're not in that bucket, so if you're a retiree without dependents, if you have a higher earned income here than the 150 that we're talking about, or if you have other factors that play in and you start getting phased out of these specific credits, I think you're going to feel that someone's paying for these incentives. We're shifting dollars here, really, is what we're doing. And so we need to be planning today that we aren't just going gaga over getting all this extra cash that we have right now. If you did phase out of these this last year and probably 2021, you're actually feeling that you got stimulus other means, whether it's through the PPP, the employee retention credit, other dollars and incentives, the EIDL loans. There are significant amount of cash flow that came through this year that we need to be thinking about and recognizing that we shouldn't be so aggressive in taking these deductions. So part of what the plan here was that they stimulate the economy through giving all of these deductions and these incentives, and the fact that the PPP has a double deduction that we can use, which directly correlates to what your tax return is going to look like this year. But what you're finding me talking through with many of you, and I need you to think about here, is maybe we don't go so far on that. Maybe we do, if the circumstances are right, maybe we do take all those deductions. But I'm looking ahead, and I'm asking you to look ahead as well, to think, where is this going? And it's likely going to go via increased taxes. I'm going to spend a whole nother video, probably this summer when it's not in the middle of tax season, talking about some of those implications of where we see these taxes going up. You may be surprised. I actually don't think it's necessarily in your individual tax return. I think you're going to feel it in other ways that we need to be thinking through. But what you need to be aware of is we can't just blindly see all these dollars coming in and know that there's not a cost. We need to be thinking about this. What does it mean for your 2021 tax return? So whether you're going to be benefiting from these dollars in 2021 or whether we think that you might be actually spending some of these dollars, we need to talk about it. That's really what we should be focusing when you're coming in and we're talking through your tax return right now and as we look ahead. That was a lot of information. I look forward to coming to you in the future months, talking through this and others, what the implications are going to be, what does it mean. I appreciate the patience you've had to get this far. I appreciate your patience and your kindness as we work through the tax returns here, digesting this information, plus the other 3 that came through all this year, trying to get it done, plus the delays and plus everything else. We are pushing as hard as we can. Please give us a call if you have questions as we talk through this. That's what we're here for. That's what these are for. Check some of our other videos that we've had that may answer some of the questions. Give us a call at the front desk. We're here for you. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to talking to you soon.